Welcome, everybody. It is so good to be back and so great to see you all here. Today's conversation is the first in our new season. After a 3-month break, we're really happy to be back. My name is Mikey Mhenna. I'm the Executive Director of afikra and the host of today's evening. Our special guest today is Iraqi-Kurdish filmmaker Philip Jamal Rachid, who was born in 1978 in Sofia, Bulgaria, and was raised in Amsterdam. He is a self-taught writer, director, producer, consultant. His love for cinema started when his grandmother worked at an art house cinema and took Philip along to watch films while babysitting. His independent films always have humanitarian themes. His first recognition came when he shot a short film on a flip cam, remember those, in Kurdistan in 2011. And the film was screened at the Duhok International Film Festival and nominated in the San Diego Kurdish Youth Film Festival. 2014, he won the Samsung Short Film competition at the Dubai International Film Festival. Philip, welcome to afikra Conversations.
Hey, Mikey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Today, we're talking about your film, It Ain't Where You From. That's going to be the subject matter of today's talk. For those of you who are on the call, there will be a moderated Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, please type them in and we'll go over them at the end. Before we get started, I wanted to share the trailer just to give a sense to folks what this film looks and sort of feels like. So let's watch the trailer. Take a second. Yeah, can you hear this? Okay, there you go. It's much better with the sound.
I don't know where to start.
करे नेकी सोच के मिल जाए सवाब कोई करे दोस्ती ये सोच के बन जाए नवाब कोई करे गलती फिर पहने उस पे वो हिजाब
في كثير يقولوا الأغاني حرام في السعودية.
When I was young, I have lost my family. And I was looking for something to hold on to.
It feels like you don't have anywhere to go, end of the day, when all is said and done.
The way I grew up, they were always looking down to me. You see, I tried to fit in, but I was mostly hated.
I live in a country where my simple rights are taken away from me.
Where are my roots? Where are my seeds? Where am I accepted? Where am I loved?
So pardon me for growing up without a home, family, and a land in the colony.
Okay, great. So that's a trailer, and we're going to be talking about this. This is a film that is if I get this right, was a product of a co-commission from the Shabak Festival and the NYU AD Art Center. We're going to run this interview a little differently than most interviews. I want to ask you a series of questions that will help explain the sort of before, during, and after of the film, of the process of making the film. So
Great.
Let's start with sort of the before. So what were you doing, Philip, before you started working on this project?
Depends how long you go back, but before I started this project, I was filming a lot of ads, corporate films, and short films here in the UAE. I was mentoring newer generation filmmakers. I released a book, Filmosophy, about how to create something out of nothing in the film industry. And before that, I was touring around the world as a b-boy, basically, not because I was the best b-boy in the world or I won the biggest competitions, but I was always very culturally involved. So I basically earned my stripes as a b-boy because the older generation gave me those stripes. I had the blessing to work with pioneers from Europe like Storm, Swift Rock, Mauricio, Paulo from Holland, Nasserah from France. And I was lucky enough to basically also learn and adapt the knowledge from first generation b-boys from New York. And that was my whole goal. So I went basically to the mecca of hip hop to kind of absorb everything and, you know, like, and yeah, build my character as an artist. And before that, I was an actor on Dutch TV. Sorry. I was an actor on Dutch TV that basically was the first Middle Eastern character on national TV as a main character, which was very unique because in that time, 1997, that was not really a thing. So.
Yeah, and just these three films that I have on the screen. When did you start making films? I guess.
I mean, my main motivation always has been I want to change the scenery of TV and film, because when I saw the people that were represented in the mainstream films, they never looked like me, right?
Yeah.
Or like us, or the diversity was just very minimal. So my motivation came always from that. How can I tell stories that are from this region and have an international quality, right? Mm-hmm. I started out as an actor. I had to kick in a lot of doors to show and prove that I can do something. I never went to acting school. I never went to film school. I really have a self-taught hip-hop mentality, and that's what hip-hop basically gave me since I was young. You can accomplish anything that you can do as long as you put your mind to it. The films that I created here always have been pretty much about awareness in a sense. So the first film I shot on a Samsung phone, and that was about home abuse sexually, and it was done in a way that I shot it from the perspective of the kid, so almost as a horror film.
Yeah,
and it was very dark in the sense of we shot it as a horror noir, let's say, right? And I didn't show anything of the abuse, just the name was called Happy Birthday. It's called Happy Birthday. And it's a very ironic way of telling the story because, you know, it's about a family coming together or surprising the little kids and then discovering what is really happening inside the house. But because everybody's there together, nobody says anything. Right? You're like, how are you going to deal with that? So they sing Happy Birthday in a very sad way. And the other films, basically same thing. The Moonlight Rider was basically, I wanted to create a bigger than life character. And it was my first commissioned film, thanks to Image Nation and Arab Film Studio in Abu Dhabi. And that bigger than life character was a woman back in 2014 that wanted to be a professional race driver. And I really, that came from a sense of, what I said, creating a character that kind of motivates, right, people to pursue their dreams. And she is a documentary. So when I started basically creating things with the camera and stuff like that, it was always very cool and edgy kind of b-boy martial art videos. And later, my biggest weakness was writing. So I had to do a lot of courses for screenwriting, and I'm a little bit dyslexic as well. So when I get really tired, it's full of errors.
I know the feeling.
But so camera-wise and visually, I'm very well aware and feel it a lot. And the moment I came here, more and more, my focus was on portraits of people. And she was a project where that basically was an evolution of portraying people, but again, about women, right? Why? Because I'm raised by women. My mom, my grandma, and my sister, they raised me. So those are my examples, right? And I wanted to let the world know that, you know, there is strong women out there and they can pursue their dreams. And I wanted to bridge the gap between here and the Western world, because some people in the Western world, when I showed the film the first time, they're like, what am I watching? It's just a few women talking about that they want to work, right? And I said, yeah. And that's exactly why I'm showing this, because we take that for granted, right? Yeah, so it was a good dynamic.
Okay, I'm going to keep on going because we got a ton to go through.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question, how did you come up with the name It Ain't Where You From? And was that the original name?
No, so the whole project started with just the main circle, 7.83. It actually started with the Big Man Cipher. That was the working title. And then during the pandemic, I started researching. I thought, okay, we got to broaden it up. The main circle, 7.83, is based on the Schumann resonance, which is an experiment that Professor Schumann did in the 60s, proving that the world and the atmosphere has a heartbeat, right? Okay. And if we're not in touch with that vibration, we're not in touch with ourselves. Meaning we need nature, we need music, we need dance, we need interaction with people. And this is the research I did during COVID.
Okay.
And then when we were filming.
Yeah, tell me about this name in particular.
Yeah, so when we were filming, we were trying to distinguish the film part from the bigger project. And I was thinking, okay, it's based on a hip hop terminology where you go like, you know, if you're part of us, you're part of us. It ain't where you from, it's where you at. Which means, you know, no matter what your background is, if we're vibing and you're part of the crew, you know, and you contribute in a way, then your background doesn't matter as long as you put in the work, right? So that was the motivation behind it.
All right, this question, what is the date or when did the project actually start? Because like, you know, projects, the sort of inception of projects sometimes is like years before it actually like really kicks off. So if you were to imagine, when does it actually start? When did you start thinking of this film or like wanting this film to be made?
So like, again, because I was an actor making videos with a camera in my backpack and I was a b-boy traveling around, people's always, even in Holland back then, a lot of the institutes and the production companies and always said, Phil, you got to make a film about, you know, dancing and dances. And often you came back to a concept from, or what you got was a concept as a step up kind of ripoff. So I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to.
Channing Tatum wasn't available?
No, I mean, even if he was, I would love to work with him, but then maybe for something else. Right?
Yeah. No shade thrown. Don't get it twisted. No shade thrown.
No. I mean, he's great, right? Yeah. But it was never my intention to make a copy of anything, right? Yeah. And everybody jumps on the bandwagon when certain things are popular. And even now I've heard, hey, we should make a Arabic step up. And I'm the wrong person for that. I would like to make a La Haine, right? Or Do the Right Thing from Spike Lee.
Sure.
These are the kind of movies I want to make. And here I basically started, again, when I came here, everybody was kind of saying the same thing, but nobody was taking in the action or basically willing to take the risk.
Sure. Yeah.
And I slowly proved that that it was possible. And when it actually really started was last year. I mean, I did test shoots before that to show and prove what I had in mind. And I pitched it quite a few times in different formats. But it really started basically when I had the conversation with Bill and Lindsay at NYU. And they asked me, do you have something in mind? And I pitched like, yeah, I want to do this. And they reacted so positively. And yeah, and like, and you feel it. You feel that they got it, right? They understand what we're trying to do, and boom. So I would say, and that was actually 2 years ago. Sorry, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so this question. Who are the like 5 or up to 5 co-founders who weren't really part of the project, but their DNA is all over the project because they're such a huge inspiration to you?
Yeah, I love that question. So Spike Lee for sure. Even though we did meet, and I was trying to get an internship at his company back in the day, like 10 years ago.
40 acres, right?
Yeah, exactly. 40 acres and a mule. Absolutely, that whole mirror scene, I can be very honest about it, is based on 25th Hour, right? That was the inspiration.
Yeah.
But in a different way.
I caught the reference.
And it's also, for me, I'm glad you get the reference because, I want to introduce people to those things that you can, change narratives in a certain way, right? Funny enough, Spike Jonze, you mentioned it earlier. I grew up with it for sure. The Beastie Boys video clips, the film, the surrealistic approach, but yet very, very edgy and cool, right? But also Dziga Vertov. That's an old Russian filmmaker from 1924 or 29. And his film was a documentary called The Man with the Movie Camera. And what he did, he basically filmed his city through a year long and edited it together with his wife. His wife actually edited it. And all these editing techniques we still use nowadays, by the way. But it's such a beautiful, compelling, cinematic way of filming, that really inspired me, the whole guerrilla style. And another thing for sure is Robert Rodriguez. When I read his book, Rebel Without a Crew, that's me.
So just as a follow-up to this, how many of these artists, this is a huge collaborative project. You're featuring all these different artists, many of whom are listed in the trailer. They're different countries. How many of them did you know before?
Quite a lot, actually. But mostly on the B-boy side. Yeah. And then, certain people, like when you watch the trailer right now, one of the guys rapping in is because I met another person through another person, and he told me, yo, you should come to this neighborhood. Nobody films here, and it's the raw stuff, and we got some great talent. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So Hasoon, thanks, because it's so valuable. I love that raw energy, right? We never see that. So yeah, quite a few people I've been knowing for a long time. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so what are some of the things that created friction that slowed you down before you actually were able to actually premiere the film?
It's 3 things. Well, maybe more, but definitely it's always a financial restriction, right? Yeah. Second of all, being in a period of our generation's worst pandemic globally, and then being locked down, and then all of a sudden, you have to make a film. How are you going to do that? Okay. And then third, I would say is that, nobody directly involved, let's say, artist-wise, but also team-wise, has ever done a project like this or had the experience, right? So for me, I had to pull a lot of people into the realm of filmmaking, and being in a time where everything is snappy and quick in 15 seconds, and looking cool the whole time. I had to let people know, okay, relax, let the shot linger, guys. I don't want acting. I don't want, let him do 100 push-ups. That's how he trains. Don't do 5, right? Like, stuff like that.
Okay, cool. All right. And this is the last question before we actually get into the implementation of it. Is this a project, is It Ain't Where You From a project that you had to do, or a project that somebody had to do and no one was doing it and you're like, I guess I'll do it?
No, it's been a mission. it's been a lifelong mission. I think it's been written in the skies that I had to do this. There's
But
been
is it something that only you could do? That's what I'm trying to say. Is
Yeah,
it something that
yeah,
only
yeah,
you could do?
I can definitely say, yeah, there's different things have been made here, but what makes this unique is it's being done from a perspective from a hip hop artist, right? Like, and that's the difference. It's in the shots, it's in the edit, it's in the styling, you know, it's in the music. It's a collaborative project with all these artists that wouldn't have been the same if somebody just from outside comes in, because we had a producer conversation, and I was trying to get an external producer on board, and she started making phone calls. Nobody would pick up or nobody would get involved because they're not from the scene, right? Like,
so I forget what it is, if it's like the 4 pillars of hip hop or the 5 pillars of hip hop, if there's like rapping, DJ, b-boying, and then I forget the other ones, like fashion.
graffiti.
Graffiti, yeah, exactly.
And
then
it's just 4. People add stuff to it, but the elementary ones are 4. Yeah.
That's right. Graffiti is the 4th. That's right. Exactly. That's right. And so like when I was talking to you earlier, it feels like this is, in some of the like promotional material, it says like this is about like GCC, like underground hip hop in the GCC, right? Why not just like lean fully in and be like, no, this is about b-boying, and that's what this is about?
It started like that.
Okay.
But then you start realizing, because the film is mostly about the dances, right?
Yeah.
But on the background, the credit song is made by,
for sure,
rap artists, right? So they're involved in a certain way. And then we have guys painting. The logo is made by graffiti artists, right?
Yeah.
And and then we got some scratches here and there so I'm like, yeah, no, it's a cultural film. Yes, it's about the B-boys and the B-girls, but it's a hip hop cultural film in that sense. And this is the difference between people who talk about promoting hip hop. They just promote rap often, right? Just one thing. They don't understand that it's layers of communities and artists that create the culture.
Sure. That's right. Okay, let's talk about the actual implementation. So you mentioned Lindsay and Bill at NYU. Are there other sort of early believers, and maybe you can talk about some of the artists who are like some of the artists who signed in?
Eckhart from Shubak also was an earlier believer. Man, he kept on checking in. How's it going, right? So I want to chapeau him as well.
Shout out to Eckhart.
Yeah. And I'm sad to say, but one of the earliest believers here was B-boy Ahmed from Jordan, and he used to live in the UAE for 5-6 years, and then he moved back.
So can you actually do us a favor for those who are listening, like beyond? Can you just go down some of the names of the main contributors or the participating artists who were featured? Who are some of them, so people can look them up later? Okay,
so but I'll come to that. B-boy Amr was one of the first ones to believe. I shot a portrait of him in that was 4 or 5 years ago, of him just training and the endurance that it takes to practice 4 hours. He again thought that I was just going to film a promo, so he was doing his run, and I said no, again and again and again, and for 4 hours long he never said no. And I love him for that. He kept on going, and he's sweating and he's like, what are we doing? I said, man, that's it. Because that's how you train. And that's what I want to show to people. It's not you just doing a trick. It takes a lot of hours and dedication, and nobody ever sees that. And so I want to thank him for that. And that's really from the heart. Sadly enough, he's just in a few scenes. He wasn't part of the bigger documentary. But one of the main characters are Biger Lana from Lebanon. She basically, for me, is a big inspiration because she's one of maybe the only one I've seen or I've heard of that grew up here and is breaking on a level that's on an international level. So we have girls from Morocco, Algeria, who basically go back and forth from France and Holland and stuff like that, right? but she actually grew up here. So she's very unique. Then we have Feras, who's also a b-boy from Jeddah, and he's been active since a while as well. His father is an imam, and it's very unique how he knows how to balance those two worlds, right? But we have Dust from Bahrain, who is a b-boy, music creator, and a graffiti artist. He made the hand styles of It Ain't Where You From for the title. Very unique and talented person. And then we have Spikey, who also is a b-boy and a DJ from Iraq originally and lives in Sharjah. And then on the music side, we have Tak and Keys, who are really dope rappers from now based in Dubai, both with roots in Sudan and Egypt. And then we have Mohammed Araki, who is basically the first Grammy nominated composer from Sudan who lives in the States now. We have Galia, a very talented singer from Syria based in Al Ain. We have Fafa, who is half Emirati and half Latina, living in Abu Dhabi, who did really great vocals. We have Wadal Mazar. We have a bunch of great, unique talents on board, and I'm freaking grateful for this collab.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so what are some of the internal or external critiques that you were trying to address as you were making this? Like that actually because for sure there are things like there are dialogues happening in your head about like, don't do this, don't do that, don't mess up this way. Like what are some of the guardrails that you're not trying to touch?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge is how do we step away from the stereotype, right? And I still trying to do that.
Yeah.
how do we step away from just looking cool, right? How do we create layers? And at one moment when we were interviewing the cast, right, and that's a gradual process, right? It's not a conversation that goes right like this. So you have to go and talk again, because we live in a region where, it's a lot about, you can't talk about bad about family, or you can't talk about certain issues. But at the same time, I think it's important to address certain issues, but it's the way you do it, right? I think that's important. Sure. And so the cast at one moment was saying, hey man, Phil, it kind of seems like we're in a therapy session right now. Because we all as artists go through certain things. And my goal was to address the deeper layers of what we go through, right? Because family doesn't always understand it. They're not happy when you say, hey, I'm gonna go dance on the streets. What? No way, right? Like the family name is in there.
My favorite thing was Lana's mom doing the quintessentially Lebanese mom thing, be like, oh, it's just your hobby.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how it is seen. But then she's very proud when Lana is on TV, right?
She's like, hey, I like it when you're on TV. That's so funny.
Right. Maybe you should just get a job on the side, right? Like
exactly. Okay, so this is no, go ahead, say your thing, and I want to move on.
No, I mean these are things that happen, right? But with everybody, and just being taken seriously as an artist, but especially as a street artist, and especially as a dancer that rolls over the floors on the street is a very big thing. And that's why I chose to highlight the dancing community, right?
Yeah. So, okay. Insofar as you're tapping into your Robert Rodriguez Rebel Without a Crew, what are 5 pro tips that you would give yourself like 10 years ago, or other budding filmmakers who are rebels without a crew, to get this done?
I also, how do you say that? Keep believing in yourself. Everybody will say no. Look, this was on my shoulders, honestly, for 20 years almost, you know? And I never felt right. I never felt that it was the right connection or the right producer, or I was ready to tell it. You know what I mean? You need to develop and let certain things sink in. And people will always say no. And if you feel that it's something that you need to tell to the rest of the world, then you have to do it, man. There's nobody else that will do it. You know, nobody can tell that story the way you can tell that story. You know, so that's one tip. The other tip is don't wait for anybody. You know, like even when people say yes, it's you who has to make it happen. You know, I always hear complaints about, yeah, but this and this was not good. And this, okay, but then what can you do with this? You also have to show and prove, huh? You know, like if you can't handle $5, how are you gonna handle $5,000, right? Like, yeah, yeah, it's as simple as that. Okay. Always give credits. A lot of people tend to forget who helped them along the way. So that's 3. Anything else?
No, that's great. I was going to ask you for like technical tips for how to get, you know, like for somebody who produced a film on a flip phone. I'm curious if like the larger budgets, not that you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars, but the idea, is your creativity enhanced with larger budgets or sort of harnessed with larger budgets? It's a
how do you say it? It's 2 sides of the coin. Yeah. Because the more money you get, the more people are involved, the more things need to be signed off, the more people want to have their say in it, right? But if you show that you can do something with nothing, then it's good to work with a budget. Because, you know, eventually, and that means you can work with a team. And that means you can work with a good team. The moment you have money, you can hire the best people in the world, right? That work with you and listen to you. Because that's your job as a filmmaker or a director, I would say, is to have the vision, but also be able to communicate it to the rest of the team, and they will help you make it realized. So I have this question for you. So directors who are also dancers, like what's his name? That guy, John M. Cho, right? Okay. Like, isn't he? I think he's a dancer as well. I'm not sure if he is. I think he is. Okay. Maybe lowercase d dancer. But one of the things that I always wonder is that like this film is like very transportive. It's like very sort of what's the word I'm looking for? It's very surreal, right? There's like scenes that are like very vivid and surreal with matching costumes that match the background. The lighting is cool and funky, and it's very imaginative. It's not this like, and it's contrasting sort of the rawness of their daily life. But why did you choose not to just be like, all right, I'm just going to actually show the daily life and sort of the daily grind without the sort of imagination of these surreal scenes? No, I love surrealism. I love the bigger than life kind of, because it's escapism also, right? It's about style, and it's about a lot of the things is how do you tell the story? So I love you that you picked up on that. Actually, that's the first time I hear it. You know, it's this world that we are in, and if you're just showing the real rawness, yeah, that's great. But then you don't see it from the inside perspective, right? And that's
because in your mind, it's like actually this huge thing.
That's how we see it, right? Even with the boombox head and that's how we are. My first logo was a boombox head, right? Like we hear music nonstop, and if you hear good music, you vibe to it, or you start writing, or you get inspired. So it's visualizing your own worlds.
Cool, perfect. Okay, so I want to talk about after. knowing what you know now, are there things that you think you should have done differently and sort of prepared yourself differently to kick off this project? Not like going way back to when you were like 20 years old, but like when you're like, all right, I want to kick this off, day one of the shoot. What do you wish you had planned for?
I mean, it's such a great experience because this is way better than film school. You know, you experience everything. And I always wanted to study at NYU. I just didn't have the budget. And here I am, you know, collaborating with them on this project. So that's a dream come true. So for me, it's the best school. There's nothing that I would do different because I've learned so much from it, you know, and I would just say I'm a little bit more strict about things because you only have so much energy and so much time and so much budget. So I would not put that much of energy in certain situations or people anymore and just be more, this is how we're going to do it. And if not, you know, then we keep it moving.
Amazing. It's like Tarantino said, I didn't go to film school, I went to films.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also one of my heroes, of course, but.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you think of like achievement or success for something like this? Like, what are you actually proud of with this actual project?
The biggest moment is always seeing it on screen for the first time. So that happened 2 days ago. So thank you, Manas. And thank you, NYU, the Art Center. That's the biggest accomplishment after you spend all that time. You just want to see it on the big screen, you know, like that's what you're making it for. And everything after that is what it is. You know, success for me is really measured in the fact to realize a dream that you have, right?
Just to push back a little and sort of not push back, but sort of push deeper into this. Was it like a sort of a desire to illustrate the diversity of styles and diversity of backgrounds in the subculture? Was it a desire to be like, I want to show people what it feels like to be in the head of a b-boy or b-girl? I want you to understand how long it takes. Like, what are you trying to actually do? What do you want people to walk out with?
I mean, it's an underdog story at the end of the day, right? We're all misplaced people in a time and place that we're just trying to survive. And we actually just want to live. I would love to have a car. I would love to have a house. Yeah, I would love to have a partner next to me. I don't have it. So, and I'm not the only one. But I have the blessing to live in a country right now, like the UAE, and where many other peoples are, as you see in the documentary, to pursue our dreams in a safe environment, right? And I think that's one of the most important messages I want to share.
Okay. Last one before we move on. So what's next? Is there if you had a dream sort of blank check for somebody who saw this project and I said, I want to support your next project, what's that next project?
I would love to make a fiction film. Yeah. And like I said, I've mentioned a few examples already, right? Like Alahen, Do the Right Thing. I love genre storytelling. So funny enough, I got a call from LA for a new film project.
Okay, cool.
Which is great. I can't say anything about it yet, but it's really cool. And I actually wrote now another film project, fiction film project, which is very conceptual again, and deals with shaming.
Okay. So are you, just curious, are you still dancing? Is that still part of your sort of like day-to-day life?
It's not part of my day-to-day life anymore, no. Sadly enough, I grew a few kilos. So just walking now is a little bit tiring. But it's still in the soul, man. The moment you hear a good song, you go, right? So I'm gonna start training for next year's performance at the Main Circle.
So just tell me exactly, when you say the Main Circle, right? and next year's performance. What do you mean by that? Like, is this like a regular community that's showing up in the UAE every week, and there's like a jam, or what is this thing?
No, so that's the sad part, like that there's no organized kind of get-togethers, right?
Okay.
And I would love to expand on that. I've helped a few people, Slam Fam, basically to organize their jams. But it's what structurally is missing is get-togethers, exactly like you said. So the main circle is a little bit more than that. It's actually, it's a performance where music, spoken
So it's
word,
an actual event.
Yeah, it's an actual event where the film,
Okay, gotcha.
So visuals, spoken word, dance, and music come together.
Okay. Do you think it's, would you describe that, you said this, like the promo stuff said the underground hip hop scene, right? Would you describe that there is like a actual b-boying and b-girling like subculture? Like, are there people actually like connecting with each other, or are these disparate people in different places who are doing their own thing, but really they kind of just live on the internet and they're as connected to b-boys and b-girls in LA and Tokyo as they are to somebody in like, Bahrain and Algeria?
Very interesting question. Yeah, we live in an internet era, for sure. So I come from the era where there was no information, right, about breaking online or on TV. So you had to go from ear to mouth and hear where the training spot was, and you would go travel 2 hours just to see what's going on. Travel 5 hours to go to Germany for a jam, right? And you would give up all your money
Get
and
the
time.
VHS tapes.
Yeah, no, those were rare.
Yeah.
Those were not given out because that was knowledge, right? The moment you had a VHS tape, somebody could train because you could see all the moves. So they would keep them for themselves.
Yeah, it's a competition.
Yeah, because you want to shine, right? You want to be the best on the floor. So
yeah.
And
I don't know
that is
who
kind of
originally
missing.
said
That
this.
mentality here is missing.
Yeah. So, okay, so there's a quote about, I don't know if Jalen Rose is the first person to say it, but he says it all the time, and I love the quote. He says, "There's no scoreboard, but hip hop's a competitive sport." And I wonder, like, does it feel competitive in the region? Are people sort of like sizing each other up across the region, or not so much? And it's like, if there's not enough people to actually have it be competitive.
It's competitive in different ways. Nobody likes to see another person shine.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand.
It's Instagram
all
competitive.
Huh?
It's Instagram competitive.
Yeah.
See, like, it's so funny. Every now and then I talk to somebody like you who's like so sweet and loving and like generous, and they have like such a open spirit, and then I'll say somebody's name, like I said, like John and Joe, and you're like, the shade was like exploding out of your eyes, and I was like, okay. There it is. I needed to find it. I finally found it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
okay, cool.
Yeah, there's some questions coming in. I see.
Let's open up for questions. Noor, I'm going to ask you, if it's okay with you, to unmute yourself, and if you can put on your camera, that would be great too.
Hi, how are you guys? It's been a long time since I attended one of these meetings. I'm
glad
excited
to have you back.
Yeah, thank you. So Philip, I hear you a self-taught artist, and this requires a lot of discipline. What advice would you give young artists who are, I know a lot of artists, especially in Iraq, young directors that I spoke with, and most of them are self-taught. What advice would you give them to enhance their career?
We live in a time and era where you can film everything. When I started, I had to borrow cameras. My friend had a computer that I could only use for 4 hours in the weekend to edit, right? Now we live in a time, and that was what I was trying to prove with my flip cam and the phone. Everybody was talking about, nobody, I need Alexa, I need a crew, I need this. You have a pen, you have a computer, write the script, right? It's all about having a vision and a good idea. You can film it with your phone, practice your shots even, you know what I mean? Learn how to tell the story. You can nowadays even edit on your phone and upload it. You have distribution channels like TikTok, Instagram, and all these other things, YouTube, Vimeo, and get reactions from your audience, which is rare. So we live in a unique time. Show that you can do something and you're able to tell a story. And then that's how you get people to believe in you.
Great. If there are any other questions in the chat, if you can type them in. Philip, before we go, I just want to ask you one last thing. There's a question from Maha. Maha, can you unmute yourself? And if you can, I'll let you unmute yourself, go for it. And if you can turn on your camera, that would be great.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't unmute, and I'm sorry I sent my question to the wrong person in the chat. I will also spare you my very early morning look. But this has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you. I wanted to ask, this has become such a unique and beautiful forum for expression. And I think more and more we're seeing, and I think this is, your movie is a great example of it, as that expression becoming an arena to discuss identity politics and really just touch on more of these subjects that I think it might be misconstrued as closed off in these spaces, maybe particularly in the Arab world. How have you seen it change? Do you think that the space is more open now and it's kind of being used as the default forum, to discuss these things?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The power of what we do, I mean, hip hop has been the most influential art stream or culture since the past 40, 50 years, right? And the power of it is exactly what we show in the film, to discuss certain things and what it takes to be an artist, right? The third culture kid, or, losing everything in a war. So right now, as we see that people are opening up also around the world, Hollywood, Netflix is looking for diversity in the films. Holland is open right now for different stories. The world is changing, and we're changing with it. And it's about time that we kind of raise our voice about who we are and what we do as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Maha. Okay, as we wrap up, Philip, these are your, for those people listening who can't see the screen, there are two places to sort of follow you on Instagram and social, Soul Trotter and The Main Circle, spelled as you would expect them to be spelled. But real quick, if you were to add a few extra names of artists who were not able to make into the film because of maybe geography or logistics, from across the Arab world that you think might be worth people checking out, do any names sort of jump out?
I was talking to Yara from Saudi. She's a rapper. We didn't get a chance to collaborate yet. I wanted to have her on a track. I think she is pretty dope. Also, Arkam Al-Abri, we've been in conversation. He's a soul singer from the UAE. We didn't get a chance to collaborate yet.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
like
great. Well, Philip, this was a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it for having you, man. And we're also on Spotify. The credit song is out. Check it out. We're going to drop more tunes there. Subscribe, like, Soul Trotter, everything, you know the deal.
Cool. All right, everybody, if you have a second, it takes 30 seconds to just fill out the one question feedback form. Was this good? Just click that, let us know. Yeah, thanks for joining. We have a slew of events for the rest of the year. For the rest of the month, go to afikra.com/RSVP. You can see all about them. And thanks to all of you for showing up today. This was fun. And this will go out on our YouTube page and our podcast in a couple of days. So for those sort of hip hop nerds you have in your life that you want to, who may have missed today, let them know about it so they can check it out afterwards. All right, everybody. Thanks. Take care. Enjoy your day or night wherever you are.